Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today, we're going to unbox and review one of the most complicated Telecasters I think that has ever been released, in recent history anyways. This is the Brent Mason Signature Telecaster. It was released last year, I believe in August. So we're reviewing it about a year late, but it's just taken a while for this one to come in. But I'm hoping this review and demo was well worth the wait. But I picked this one up from Sweetwater. I am an affiliate partner of Sweetwater. This is not sponsored by them or anything by any means. This was actually a new Guitar Day purchase. So if you're buying a brand new guitar and you'd rather see it reviewed on the show or unboxed on the show first, you can find out more information on my website. Or if you just want to buy direct from Sweetwater and support the show at the same time, you can use my affiliate links to buy anything directly on their website. But enough about all that. Let's go ahead and get this guitar open. Brent Mason, he might not be a household name, but he's definitely played a part of many songs that you've likely heard, you know, in your house. So he is a session guitarist, originally from Van Wert, Ohio, which is kind of cool to me because that's only like an hour away from where I grew up. But essentially, by 5, he had taught himself how to play by ear, and then when he got older, he moved down to Nashville and became one of the greatest session guitarists of all time. Depending which list, I think he's been named number 1 12 times, but he's always like within the top 10. He's played with Chet Atkins, Brooks and Dunn. You've got Shania Twain, Dolly Parton, Alan Jackson. Pretty much anything country he's been a part of in a roundabout way. And we're talking about those prime country years. So to play on all that stuff, you probably need a guitar that's extra versatile. And normally a Telecaster, I mean, they're great guitars, right? But they're simple. 2 pickups, three-way selector switch. Wait until you get a hold of this beauty. Oh man, look at that. You know, first impressions, I knew this was called primer gray, meaning it's not going to be, you know, a super fancy looking finish, but yeah, this literally just looks like somebody has painted it in their paint booth. I wasn't expecting a satin finish. For some reason, I was just expecting like a normal gloss on this due to all the photos that I've seen. But no, this is just straight up satin. So kind of like a chalkboard feel. But, you know, besides that, I mean, take a look at this thing. Locking Spurzl tuners on a Telecaster. Okay, that's pretty cool. Crazy amount of pickup selections. I mean, when have you ever seen a mini-humbucker in a Telecaster? Now, I thought that mini-humbucker was supposed to be mounted upside down. But then you get a single coil in the middle, kind of that Nashville Tele setup, and a Seymour Duncan in the bridge. And obviously we'll go over the exact models and details on the workbench. But I guess from first impressions, it's mainly that mini humbucker that's strange, and you get an extra knob right here, which I believe is to control this middle pickup. But if all that wasn't enough, take a look at this. I finally get to check out a Bender system. So this has a Glaser Bender, I believe. Yep. So that kind of gives you those pedal steel sounds. So I'm really excited to check that out. But yeah, those tuners look strange on that. That gives them a really low profile. So I'm surprised you even need any type of string tree on this thing. So now that we know some of the quirky features about this, from the finish to pickup options and bending and tuners, you actually have 2 different price points on this one. So the one we're reviewing today, this is just a regular Fender USA product. So these things are $2,699 at the time of recording, brand new. But if you're saying, hey, I like the Fender USA stuff, but I'm a custom shop guy, they are doing a Kyle McMillan built limited edition run of 60 of these that are Masterbuilt. And those guys are at $12,500, but they're relict and aged. They look exactly like Brent's Telecaster. And hey, a limited edition of 60, that's pretty cool for a very unique guitar. I'll let you check those out on the Fender website. But I suppose we could look at the case candy. So real quick, just kind of a old style Fender case. It's got that yellow interior. And inside here, I doubt we'll have anything incredibly fancy, probably just the regular COA. Yep, right there. And oh my, looking at this, it looks like we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. So, troglodytes, come with this journey with me. Let's throw this thing on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside Brent Mason's signature Telecaster, let's go ahead and go over all this stuff. It's a lot to talk about. So even though mine left the factory incorrect, technically, because his specs are, he likes that neck pickup upside down. He likes the pull pieces here instead of there. But as you can see, it was just a slight goof at the factory. You can easily flip it around, so I'll go ahead and do that. But we've got a trio of Seymour Duncan pickups in here. So this is just a Seymour Duncan mini-humbucker. It's actually a custom shop pickup within their lineup, and it's just labeled the Brent Mason mini-humbucker. But that just has the regular mini-humbucker plate in there. But what's kind of sad though is I wish they would have put a couple of screw holes right there. That way, if you wanted to, you could have swapped it out and put a P90 pickup in here. But generally, signature guitars don't get messed with too much. And this is called the Hot Stack. You can take a look at your markings right there. It's got an interesting maroon red pickup cover to it, but if you remove that, it's actually a rail pickup. And honestly, I think it would look okay without a pickup cover too. Then finally, we have what they consider the vintage stack in the bridge position. It just looks like this on the back side. So here's where the fun part begins, all the routing and cavities and whatnot. So this is all a centralized route where everything's pretty well connected except for that bridge pickup here. So you get a barcode right here. You get easy truss rod adjustment access right here. You just have to take the pick guard off. That's always a time saver. But let's talk B-bender here. That's what this is, hiding underneath the bridge. We'll shine my light in here. There's just a little cavity under here, and then this metal bar is attached to this mechanism that gets screwed down into place. And that whole system gets controlled by this little lever back here. So once you attach this to your strap, you can pull down on the neck, and that pulls this lever. Then once you do that, you can see it's pulling that, which causes the string pitch to go up a whole step. Now, you don't have to go a whole step, but it's just all the way up is a whole step. So you can do a half bend, things like that. B-benders can be a lot of fun to play with. But you're probably curious, why is that route so large? Well, this is not just exclusively a B-bender. It comes from the factory setup as a B-bender. But if you take a look here, there's actually two holes. So these holes line up with that whole lever system that we were just looking at. So here's what that special saddle looks like. You have this little hinge right here. It's got this long part. That's what that bar ends up moving. So set up, it looks just like this. This thing's kind of just sticking out. And so when strung up, it's kind of like a wrap tail piece. It wraps around the back here. And I'll show you how you pull the lever, and then it comes up like that. So that's how that all works. But if you wanted, instead of a B bender, it could also be a G string bender. And I'll be honest, I really don't know how to convert it over. It might just be as simple as moving it over like that and then swapping this saddle over here for the B string then. That would technically work. It almost looked like you could have just flipped it upside down, but then I'm not quite sure how you get that lever there unless you use an Allen key to loosen it. But anyways, that's how that works. It's just a couple of levers. And then from there, you can actually adjust the whole tension of the whole system down here. There's a little screw. If you tighten that down, it becomes a little bit stiffer, because if you have your strap set up on this and you're jumping around on stage, you might not want it to be so sensitive. But if you're sitting down and playing, you might want it to be a little bit more sensitive, because nothing worse than playing chords and bending that when you don't mean to. And then we move over here. This is a volume control for your neck and bridge pickup. This is a volume control just for your middle position. And then this is a tone control, I believe, for everything. And it also acts as a system that swaps over your pickups. So when this thing is pulled up, this is a regular Telecaster, neck, bridge, middle. But when you push this down, this becomes this monstrosity here. So your neck position is now just your neck and middle pickups together. And then you can also do your bridge and middle pickups together, or all three. But you have to remember, this one controls these pickups. So technically, you can get just the middle pickup if you roll the volume off. And vice versa, in the middle position, since you have everything on, you can turn those off also to get just the middle pickup, or you can use this to blend the middle pickup out. So technically, this middle position with this off is the exact same in either position, but if you want to add a little bit of a brightness to it, you can have that either full on, or you can just dial it down just a hair. So I can see as a session musician how this makes sense. You're looking to dial in a specific sound for your recording, so you go for it. I mean, this is a highly versatile guitar, as you're going to find out here in a moment. But as far as the wiring here, it's just two basic pots. Actually, they're all different. We've got a tiny pot on that one, a regular size CTS pot there, and then a push-pull pot here. Okay, I wonder if they had to do the smaller pot because they were running out of room. I mean, this is a pretty crammed control layout right here. And then just your regular toggle switch. You'll also notice instead of a regular barrel style knob, you have a Stratocaster style one. That way it's easier to get it out of the bridge position. Okay, it's gold over here for some reason, so golden knurled knobs and everything. Like, these are extra grippy knobs. Like, I know knurled knobs have a normal feel. Think like twice as gripping. That's what these guys are. So I don't know the story why he has gold here, silver here, but you know, it just adds to the quirky vibe of this instrument. As far as QC goes, that looks okay, but oops, somebody made a boo-boo right here. They drilled it off center, looks like they filled it in and then did it the way it was supposed to go. So man, this one, not the best showing on Fender's part. Wrong way pickup and a boo-boo under there. But here's what your pickguard looks like. It's black, multi-ply, routed for a mini humbucker and a single. It's not actually attached to anything outside of the screws. But another premium feature of this guitar is it is an ash body. I mean, you can't see the ash wood grain anywhere, but that's what his guitar is, so that's what they wanted. He initially found his in a Nashville guitar shop in the 80s. But a few other anomalies here. You're gonna notice there's still holes in your pickguard right here. That's because underneath there, that's how you adjust the height of the pickup. It just had those rubber grommets underneath it. So if you do have a very tiny screwdriver, I think if I remember correctly, like the Gibson style truss rod wrenches, you can squeeze them in there to do that. Or if you find an even smaller one, it would work. But that's why they leave those in there. Otherwise, if you don't have a small enough one, you'll have to take that off, just like when you have to adjust the truss rod, and then you can tweak with that. I think the first time I ran into that within the Fender realm of things was that Miyagi Telecaster, and I was kind of confused by that at first. And once again, the finish on this, it's complete satin, feels kind of like a smooth chalkboard. It doesn't feel the most professional, but I mean, it's just like a gray primer paint. I mean, it's literally just about the same color as my walls. But moving on from our body, we have our neck. So this is a maple neck that also has a satin finish on it. So if you love satin finishes, this is the one for you. But this is a very vintage styled neck. So we have 21 frets, and Fender says they're part of the vintage tall category of frets. As far as the profile, they call it a late 60s C shape, and of course the regular 25.5-inch scale length. The nut is true bone, and I'm measuring at about 1.64 inches. Then at the 12th fret, we're at 2.03. But moving on to our first fret neck depth, 0.88 and 0.95 by the 12th. So it's not a huge neck by any means. And it is a 7.25 inch radius, so it's that very vintage fretboard style radius, very rounded if you take a look at the profile. But something I do like about this, sometimes you just find black dots on these Telecasters. This is actually a really dark perloid material, so if you get them in the light just right, they've got some like a figuring within them. I kind of like seeing that, but as usual on these Fenders, they kind of get that satin finish over top of the frets, so they do have a slight golden sheen to it. Now if that really bugs you, you can take steel wool, take that off. You can take an X-Acto knife and cut it and polish. It's really not worth it. I don't notice a lot of difference in the playability, but you know, if you don't want golden frets, I guess that's something you could consider. But moving on to the headstock, once again, you get the very, very shallow tuners on this, but they are locking Spurzels. But kind of a strange location for a string tree, but yeah, it's there. And Fender Telecaster in the high location. Now onto the back, very basic Telecaster here. Just your string through ferrules, same satin finish as we were talking about on the front. You get a barrel output jack over here, and this comes stock with Dunlop strap lock buttons. So when I first got this, I was like, okay, so how do I attach my strap to here? Do I have to get an old-timey one and just tie it there? No, you actually have a strap lock system. So inside here is what you have in a Dunlop strap lock. So Fender includes a little diagram right here. So they give you all these little parts. There's this locking part, and then there's this that goes through there, and then you take your strap and you poke it through like this, and then on the back you apply your washer. And then since I'm not permanently installing this, I'll let this part go, but there's this little thing right here that you have to put around there and then secure using some pliers, as they show you right there in that diagram. So that's just a regular strap lock. That's how the Dunlop ones work. You plug them into there and then they lock into place. So that's exactly how that works. It's just same system. It locks it into place. So you can do all your bending to your heart's content. The only downside to this though is technically you need 2 straps set up, because if you have a strap on here, you need it one way, but if you're attaching it to here, you're actually going to want to flip your strap around like this. That way it's not twisting on you when you actually hook it up to the bottom there. So a mild annoyance, and they only give you 1 set. I think it'd be nice if they would have gave you 2, but I mean, these things are not expensive. They're not special or anything like that. But yeah, that's how that works. It's just bending. Then the back of the neck here, not a lot of wood grain. It looks like a single line of like figuring right there. Here's what that looks like at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. So definitely a C-shaped neck, but gets very wide towards that front. And on the back of the headstock, you get a decal with Brent Mason's signature, and you see your serial number here. I don't think I've ever seen that before. You can see a very distinct outline where these decals were applied. I wonder if something was off humidity-wise when they installed that, or maybe it's just due to the satin finish. I've had satin finish guitars before, and they didn't quite look like that. So overall, kind of a cool guitar. Lots to talk about on it. There were a few QC mishaps on this particular one, but hey, let's go ahead and grab our weight, which shows this one at about 8.5 pounds. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. Okay, let's go ahead and run through the tones of this thing and demonstrate the B bender. So we're going to start with this up, so it's just a regular Telecaster. So we'll just have the regular neck position with our mini humbucker here. Nice, full, thick, juicy. Perfect way to describe that one. Now we'll move just into the bridge position like you heard in our intro there. Now we'll try the middle position, which is just these 2 guys together. Those are your basic tones out of this thing. But when you push this knob down, that's when you start activating your middle position. So now we're kind of more into the fancy spectrum of this. So this neck position will be these 2 pickups. And then down here will be these 2. There's not a lot of difference between those, but this one is definitely a bit deeper sounding with that mini humbucker. Listen to that again. It's got a little bit more spank to it, but not a lot. They're very similar. It takes a bit to get used to the whole B bender system. Now we'll try the middle position. That's actually all 3 pickups here. I guess technically in this position, since this controls your volume control of that one, you can blend that down if you'd like. So that sounds like this. Now in theory that should sound identical if I turn this back on and turn it into a regular one. Cool, and as far as our B-bender here, I've kind of been using it off and on. It's much easier to use this thing while standing up. Or if you add a little bit of distortion, you can kind of get some interesting country licks. I find it interesting going from like the 9th fret here. So that would normally be like playing this. But that's a little bit more compact and easier to do. You can do it really fast. You could end a solo like that, I guess. It's kind of got like a whammy bar effect to it a little bit, because I mean that's essentially what you're doing. You're like yanking up on a whammy bar. One thing I am noticing, the neck pickup is microphonic. Now some guys like the microphonic pickups, others don't. You know, in a live situation, not so good, but other times these pickups kind of come to life a bit more. Also, I'm standing like right next to my amp, so that might be some of it too. So now that we know all about the Brent Mason signature Telecaster, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Is it a guitar for everyone? Honestly, I think it is. It's one of those things that you should add to your collection. I had a lot of fun with the whole B-bender system. Not everybody will have a use for it, but that's what's beautiful about this. You don't even have to set it up to use it. You can either put your strap in here, as we discussed earlier, or right here at the top horn. So yes, you are paying a premium for that privilege of having that installed in the guitar. I mean, it's a rather extensive system, as we learned in today's episode. But I thought the tones were just fantastic. I mean, being a session musician, I knew this thing was going to be versatile, but I had no idea it was going to tackle rock sounds as well as it did as well. Now the microphonic neck pickup, that can be a pain at times, but this pickup set is way more versatile than just country music. So I think, you know, pretty much anybody could get behind this. But some cons to this, I could see a lot of people not liking the finish on this. I mean, it is kind of cheap feeling, but you know, that's just how his was done, so I guess it makes sense. It's his signature guitar. It's got all this stuff. And I will say this particular instrument feels a little bit stiffer to play than others. I don't know if it has something to do with the whole B-bender system or the bridge setup that they've got going on here. My best guess is it actually comes down to the tuners being such low profile. They have a lot of tension over the nut right here. I'm guessing that's what makes it feel a bit stiffer. But if you're doing a lot of precise bends, you know, doing the B-bender thing, that might actually be a good thing. As far as playing higher up in the neck registers, when your strap is on this, it does kind of get in the way. I'm sure you could modify your strap so it doesn't, but that's something else I noticed. I had a great time checking this thing out. Is it worth the $26.99? If you need something super versatile, but if you don't find that you're going to have a need for the B-bender, I mean, it's pretty easy to build your own parts caster version of this exact guitar, you know, minus that, because that gets a little bit complicated to install. So, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Brent Mason's signature Telecaster here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.